Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Andre and today I would love to talk about what it means to become a chef as I see it. Of course, this isn't universal applied to everybody, but that's just some of the ideas that have came up over the course of a few years as a chef. To me, becoming a chef is a combination of multiple skills. And those skills are social. Of course, you have to cooperate with others. And the second major skill would be to understand the nature. Okay, let me explain what I mean by those. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So far in my career, I have seldom cooked alone. Most of the time, as a chef, you would cook for at least a guest, or in the majority of the time, as has been the case, you cook along other chefs. Very rarely you work by yourself. And I've found that the way you interact and treat those who work around you has a great impact on the future of your career. It is one of the fundamental blocks that will either set you up or sort of break you down. I think it's that important. Those soft skills of how you treat people that work around you will mostly affect, you in the long run, more than anybody else, I think. And why? Well, if you do not cooperate, if you do not play fair, I would say, people tend to leave, and then you have no one. I've seen this over and over in my career. Cooks are not happy with this or that, and they just tend to leave. And perhaps they leave the industry, and then 20, 30 years down the line, you have nobody working in the industry. So that's no good. This goes both ways, of course. How you as a cook, as a chef, as an owner, react to the actions of others, regardless of what those actions are, plays a huge role as well, and on you. For example, do you set off easily, tend to overreact, or do you keep cool and tact at all times, choosing to focus on feeding your guests instead? All of these seemingly small moments blend into months and years, and next thing you know, that's your entire career as a chef. How you choose to conduct and respond to others, and your ability to deal with others. I would summarize that as your ability to deal with others will contribute a big share to your final grade, so to speak. There's techniques and proficiency in the kitchen as a chef, as a trade is, of course, a big part. After all, this is what you do. You have to know technique. But your ability to deal with people, to get around them, to get the best out of them is huge. And that is people. Your delivery driver, your chef, your server, your guests, you have to get around. But then there's also nature. The important skill, the second important skill is trying to understand the nature. Try to understand the natural ways. Or at least giving it a shot is worth it, I believe. Try to understand it so you can have a foundation as a cook. Such is the case really for many creative arts. It is, I think, universal across the board. Whether you're a sculptor, a painter, a DJ, or music producer, an artist of any kind, you have to look at nature. You have to give it your best shot at understanding it. And I really believe that because, for example, to take goats and sheep and cows, before we ever domesticated them, we had to have seen what they're capable of. We had to notice that they produce milk and can be raised and further slaughtered for food. We had further noticed that the animals are easily broken down if, when we break them down, we follow the seams of the animal, the natural seams, and how the animal comes apart. That naturally led to a better butcher product. And that is a through pure observation. Nobody has told us. Before the first guy started breaking it down, there was no textbook. We just followed what was in front of us by observing. We then further, or even before domesticating goats and sheep, we had to observe that the fire changes the structure of most foods. It makes them tender, more palatable, nutritious, and tasty. For example, smoking, age-old technique to smoke something, to preserve it, to make it delicious, to break down the connective tissue, and is still as ever popular. Furthermore, we had to understand the differences and some of the variety of the heating sources out in the wilderness and try to replicate them in our own kitchens. The hot springs and could, if they're hot enough, they could cook your food realistically. And then combining water and fire produce boiling water, and you lower the temperature slightly, you get poaching liquid. So all of these things we had to creatively observe and reproduce those results in the kitchen. All of these things were first noticed by somebody, by humans, and then brought into our reality. They went further and harvested some of those elements. For example, in being a lighter or a stove that lights fire on demand. The long history of humankind has taught us how to best to cooperate and achieve a common goal. We have been practicing and refining our soft skills for over a millennia, for a very long time. In my case, as it may be for many other chefs out there, starting and operating a successful restaurant could be our goal. Well, it is for me. Answers to these questions are out there, and some of them have been already solved. How do we treat our staff best? How do we get around customers? How do we attract them? How do we represent ourselves to better lead a team? How do we look at nature to get more out of what has been provided? As the case for, let's say, cooks and chefs at Noma. They're figuring out new ways, or really refining the old ways of finding new and delicious ways to present perhaps a similar or mundane tomato to make it look exciting by fermenting it and so forth. How do we combine all of the above, the amazing skills, the amazing team, the amazing knowledge that we have to produce something that excites the guests? So some of these questions and similar ones are on my mind as I prepare to open and run a restaurant, preferably a successful one. But before that ever happens, I think I would like to establish a great base, a great foundational base of how to get around these problems. How well I'm able to solve and find answers to these questions remains to be seen. I'm in no particular rush, although I'm aware of how fast time goes, but I'm in no rush to find the answers to these. But in the meantime, you guys can check back in for small incremental progress in my view of the world. Maybe you guys have similar questions, similar views on the world. Maybe you want to open a restaurant someday. This is what I'm after. I'm after of finding the truth, so to speak. And I don't think you have to look too hard, but you have to look with certain level of precision, with certain level of achieving something. You have to look for something in order to find it. So that is my goal, to look for something, to look for the answers to these questions. And here you go, guys. You've also learned how to make lasagna. Voila. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.